All right, so looks like everyone's buzzing about these drones, right? Over New Jersey, multiple states even. What in the world is going on? Are we about to have a real-life X-Files episode?
Uh-huh. Well, let's maybe not jump to aliens just yet.
Right.
But what we do have is a real head-scratcher, a genuine mystery right here in our backyard. Over the past few weeks, we've seen this huge spike in reports. People seeing these strange drones. And honestly, the lack of clear answers, well, that's just making it even more interesting.
Interesting might be an understatement at this point.
But
These aren't just some kids messing around with their toys, are they?
Oh, absolutely not. We're not talking about your average little drone you see at the park.
Right.
Witnesses are describing these things as massive. I mean, some are saying they're the size of cars.
Whoa, seriously?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And to build something like that, a drone that big, that can fly for a long time. That takes a whole other level of technology, engineering, batteries. It's not something you just, buy off the shelf.
So even if, let's say, a big tech company really wanted to,
Yeah,
they couldn't just make something like that.
it's not that simple. Imagine the power it would take to keep something that massive in the air for hours.
Sure.
And the control systems, the payload it could carry. This isn't your average DIY project,
I'm starting to see why people are a little freaked out. Huge drones flying who knows where.
And that's not even the weirdest part.
That's more.
It's not just about the size. These drones are flying in formations, sometimes for like 6, even 7 hours at a time, covering huge distances, up to 15 miles. That's not normal for commercial drones, not even close.
Okay, that's definitely creepy.
Mm.
Massive drones
Yeah.
flying in formation. This does sound like a movie.
It does, right. And to add to it, there have been reports of these drones near some pretty sensitive locations. Think like water reservoirs, power lines, even military bases.
Okay, that's way beyond just some hobbyists having fun. Someone flying a huge drone near a power plant. That's a whole other ball game. So what are the authorities saying about all this?
Well, that's where it gets, even more confusing. We've got the FBI, Homeland Security, even the Pentagon. Lots of people looking into this. But the responses, they've been kind of all over the place.
Look, what? Can you give me an example?
Well, you've got someone like Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas. He's acknowledged that, yes, people are seeing drones, but he's also suggested that some of these sightings could be just normal aircraft or even duplicates. He also mentioned that the FAA rules recently changed, right? Drones are allowed to fly at night now. So maybe that explains some of it. But even with that, there are still so many unanswered questions.
So even the experts aren't sure what they're dealing with. That's not very comforting.
It really isn't. And you've got politicians getting involved, too. Senator Andy Kim from New Jersey, he even posted a video of what he thought was a drone. Turned out to be just a plane. But he's also pushing for more answers, wants the feds to be more transparent about it all.
I can imagine. If I was a local official in one of these towns, unexplained objects flying around, people freaking out, and you have no information to give them.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, take the mayor of Belleville, New Jersey, Michael Mellum. He was told by the state's emergency management office if they find a drone down, call the bomb squad. And the firefighters? They were told to wear hazmat suits when dealing with any drones that fall from the sky.
Wait, hazmat suits? What in the...
Yeah, right. It's definitely not your everyday drone situation. You gotta wonder what kind of payload would warrant a response like that.
Seriously. Okay, so we've got huge high-tech drones, potentially carrying who knows what, flying around places they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And no one seems to have a clue who's behind it. This is more than a little unsettling.
It's a real mystery, that's for sure.
And we'll be back after the break to delve even deeper into the theories, the implications, and the unanswered questions surrounding this very strange phenomenon.
Stay tuned.
So, where do we even begin to try and unravel this, huh? Who or what could be behind these drones?
Well, the internet's having a field day, as you can imagine.
Yeah, I bet.
Theories are flying around faster than the drones themselves. Secret government projects, elaborate pranks, you name it. And of course, some people are pointing fingers overseas, saying it's got to be some foreign power, right? Given how advanced these drones seem to be.
Oh, right. There was that whole Iranian mothership idea going around.
Yeah, that one. The Pentagon shut that down pretty quick, though.
Right.
But it shows you just how on edge folks are about this. Everyone wants an explanation, and when you don't have clear information, well, that's when the speculation takes over.
I get that. But, okay, let's be real here. Could this be some super secret government thing? Like a military operation we just don't know about? I mean, it wouldn't be the first time, would it?
I mean, it's possible. But even Picatinny Arsenal, that's a military base in the area, they came out and said straight up, nope, Not us, not our drones.
Okay, so maybe not the military directly, but what about some company, some tech company testing out some, I don't know, some crazy new drone tech, maybe without, all the proper paperwork?
That's interesting. It does make you think, are drone rules even keeping up with all this new technology?
Right. If someone can build drones like these, this sophisticated, it's like maybe there's a gap between what's possible and what's allowed.
Exactly. And that gap, that's what's making a lot of people nervous. We like to think we have control over our airspace, but this is making people question that.
You said it. It's mind-blowing that these things have been flying around for weeks and no one can catch them or even figure out what they are. We have all this technology, satellites, radar. How are they doing this?
That's the million-dollar question, right? I mean, remember Assemblywoman Cleopatra Fantasia? She testified, remember? And she described how these drones could, dodge helicopters and even avoid radio frequency detection. It's like they have some kind of anti-surveillance tech built in or something.
Anti-surveillance. So it's not just like they're painted black or something. These things are actively trying to stay hidden. That's scary smart.
It is. And it makes you wonder, if they're going through all that trouble to stay hidden, what are they hiding from? What's the goal here?
That's the thing. What's the point of all this? Are they just watching, spying, or is it something worse? I mean, you mentioned they're near important places, power plants and stuff. That can't be a coincidence.
It's hard to imagine it is. And when you think about the payloads they could be carrying, remember? The hazmat suits. It makes you think about some pretty dark possibilities.
Okay, yeah, it's easy to go down that rabbit hole. Let's try to stick to what we know. We have these super advanced drones. They're basically invisible to our tech, and they're flying where they shouldn't be. That's already a huge deal, no matter who's behind it.
Absolutely. This whole situation, even if it turns out to be something harmless, it's exposed a weakness, a blind spot in our security. We can't just ignore that.
So even if it's just some, I don't know, science project gone wrong, the fact that it could happen at all, that's a big problem, right?
Exactly. This isn't just a local New Jersey thing. This is a wake-up call for anyone who cares about safety, about security, about what's going on in our skies.
So, okay, we've talked about the mystery, the theories, all that.
Right.
What now? What are the authorities actually doing about it?
Well, the FBI is collecting information, asking people to report anything unusual. They've also put up temporary flight restrictions in some places, trying to keep things under control,
But you said earlier these drones are like ghost drones.
Right.
They could avoid being tracked. Do those flight restrictions even matter if these things are operating on a level we don't even understand?
Good point. It just shows you how difficult this is for the authorities. This isn't like finding a stolen car. They're dealing with something that might be way ahead of what they're used to.
So it's more about trying to learn about these drones, right? Figure out the tech, rather than trying to catch whoever's flying them.
For now, it seems like that's the priority. Lots of data to analyze, witness reports to go through, leads to follow up on. It's going to take time, and it's complicated.
I can only imagine the pressure those investigators are under. Everyone wants answers, and rightfully so. But it's like trying to solve a puzzle where the pieces keep changing shape.
That's a good way to put it. And to make things even harder, nobody's really giving straight answers. People are left to guess, and that just leads to more rumors and speculation.
Okay, so what about us regular folks? Should we be looking over our shoulders every time we go outside?
Panic won't help, but it's good to be aware. If you see something strange, report it. Pay attention, especially if you're near those important places we talked about.
Right, like if I see a drone the size of a minivan hovering over a power plant, maybe don't just assume it's Amazon delivering a package.
Exactly. And beyond reporting things, I think this is a chance for all of us to think about technology and how it's changing things.
What do you mean?
This whole drone thing, it shows how fast technology is moving, and it makes us ask some tough questions about privacy, about security, about what happens when technology gets ahead of our ability to control it.
So it's not just about catching the bad guys. It's about the bigger picture, the impact this kind of technology has on all of us.
That's it. And that's a conversation we need to be having. Everyone, from the people in charge to, well, everyone.
Wow, a lot to think about. Okay, before we go too far down that road, let's come back to the mystery itself. Of everything we've talked about, what stands out to you the most? What's the most, I don't know, the most intriguing part of all this, honestly? It's just how bold it all is. Like whoever's doing this, they're not even trying to hide. It's almost like a challenge. you know?
It's true. It's like they're saying, catch me if you can. And that actually brings up a really interesting point about this whole thing. It's not just a technological mystery, it's a psychological one, too.
What do you mean?
Well, think about it. These drones, these things in the sky, they've kind of messed with our sense of security, right?
Yeah.
We look up, and there's this unknown.
Yeah.
It's unsettling, even if we don't know why.
It's like that feeling you get when you think someone's watching you, but you can't see them.
Yeah.
Just creepy.
Exactly. And when you don't have any answers, well, that feeling can really take over. People start making up their own explanations, rumors spread. Even smart people start seeing drones everywhere, like Senator Kim with those planes.
It's like the scariest part is what we don't know, right? The things we can't explain.
You got it. And that's where this deep dive has been so fascinating, I think. It's made us realize, hey, we don't know everything. There are things out there that we just don't understand yet.
It's kind of humbling, right?
Right.
We live in this world where we think we can Google anything, get any answer. But this shows us that there are still mysteries out there.
And that's okay. It's a good reminder to be curious, to keep asking questions, to be open to the fact that we don't have it all figured out.
It's like it's making us more aware, of what's going on around us, the things we might have taken for granted. Like, hey, maybe not every drone is just delivering a pizza.
Right. And this whole mystery, it's a chance to learn, to have those tough conversations about how technology is changing things and what it means for all of us.
So for everyone listening out there, keep your eyes peeled, right? You never know what you might see. The next big clue, it could come from anywhere. A news report, a scientist, maybe even just someone you're talking to.
Stay curious. Don't let this just fade away. Keep asking questions. Because as we've seen, even with all our fancy technology, there are still secrets out there waiting to be discovered.
So I'll leave you with this. Maybe the most important question isn't who's flying these drones. Maybe it's what do these drones tell us about ourselves? About how we see the world, about what we're afraid of, and about what happens when technology changes faster than we can keep up.
That's a great question to think about. And who knows, maybe the answer won't come from the government or the experts. Maybe it'll come from people like you who are willing to take a deep dive, ask the tough questions, and explore the unknown.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. We'll be back soon with more explorations into the strange, the fascinating, and the unexplained.
Until then, stay curious.